What is congruency? How does genetics work, which is now called genomics? The science has evolved. Now, it doesn't mean that Mendelian genomics, where two certain types of flowers produce another color flower, or however you want to break it down, that still holds. But we know more now about the epigenetic marks, epigenetics being above and around the genes. How the genes are treated produces the result. So there's so much more to learn, and that's why we put this program together. So as an introduction, the first CD talks about these concepts. The second CD is talking about how to determine what is real food, because we aren't eating real food. Commonly today, people are eating food-like substances, and we're getting different results. The gluten contents are higher. The chemicals contained are much, much more than ever before. We've got new-to-nature chemicals that never existed before. We're taking more and more in the way of medication. There's things in our environment that were never there before that are now getting into our bodies. There's a lot of things that can create an interference to that normal function that we want to have. We've got to take this into consideration. The most direct way that you do contaminate your own body is, unfortunately, through your own choice. If you're not consuming real, intact food, you're taking in less than, let's say, nature intended, or less than what you adapted to. We want nutrient-dense foods. We want foods that have a lot of nutrients and fewer calories. We'll talk about that, what caloric restriction really is. We want to determine what is real food and consume that. And again, unfortunately, with the industrialization of food production, we're not eating the same food that our ancestors did, and we're getting different results, which also means whether or not we survive. So if you consume real food, food that actually, the way it's grown, it hasn't been turned into something. It's not full of adulterative chemicals to preserve it, to let it sit on the shelf, to give it a different shape or texture or color. It's not full of cellulose, which we can't really eat. The fillers are not present. Real food is real food. Vegetables, whole fruits, not juices and all these other mixes of things, just intact food. If you eat animal products, animals that have lived a normal lifestyle, so that they actually are healthy. Eating vegetables that grew in ground, that wasn't sterilized and over-fertilized, and it does change the situation. It changes the game. So if you learn what real food is, because we've all forgotten, it's so easy to go grab the convenient stuff. But if you learn what real food is and predominantly eat that, you get a different result. That's what I'm talking about. So there's a whole hour here on what is real food, and where do you find it, and how do you identify it. It's a very important concept, and we really lost sight on it. So we want to design the lifestyle. We want to learn how to identify real food. And then you can't live a life without being physically active. Well, you can. It won't be a healthy life. And I know a lot of people are invested in walking or low-intensity exercise. Unfortunately, the payoff isn't there for as much. The body adapts when something is beyond your comfort zone. So in the CD, we talk about, I talk about different types of exercise, and the fact that it does have to be a little out of your comfort zone. You don't want to do overwhelming exercise. Absolutely, you can exercise too much. You can exercise too intensely. But we can also do too little. And if we don't do enough to cause an adaptation in the body, then the body continues on its course of degeneration. And that's literally what's happening. More and more people have less and less muscle. Muscle mass is at an all-time low. It's called sarcopenic obesity, thin, fat people. They look okay, sort of, but they don't have the muscle mass even to be healthy. And muscle mass is really important. But besides that, they don't have aerobic capacity. They don't have endurance. They don't have the physical capabilities that they should have, that we used to have just in our day-to-day lives. But it's so convenient now. You can sit at a desk all day long and get everything done. You can do it through the computer. You don't have to be physically active. The ditch diggers are a thing of the past. There's a guy standing there with a flag and a guy operating a backhoe. It's a little different than it used to be. You got to find ways to put physical activity in your life. And I talk about or not all of them, but everything I can get into this hour. What are the advantages of being physically active, and how do you go about it? Got to design a physical activity plan, because we're not doing it. And there's a real payoff to doing the right physical activity. Not too much, not too little. So an entire hour spent on that. And again, there's going to be continuing education beyond these CDs. And then we talk about a clear body, right? Because if your body's not clear and clean, it can't operate correctly. It's just interfered with. They call it the total body burden. Toxicologists used to talk about one thing at a time. It used to be that, well, a little bit of this is okay, a little bit of that is okay, right? In fact, recently in the news, I couldn't believe it. They're talking about comparing organic foods with non-organic foods, and they're talking about the fact, really poorly done studies, but they talk about the fact that it doesn't make any difference whether you buy organic or not. And there's a remark at it's in the study, the scientists said this. They said, well, the little bit of pesticides that are present aren't enough to hurt you. Now, if you think about it, this is kind of a ridiculous statement. Just because a little bit of something isn't going to hurt you, as you accumulate enough, it will. And that's what's going on. Yeah, if one day you eat a carrot that's been sprayed and full of pesticide and your lips are tingling and maybe your fingers go numb too, it'll probably pass. But if day after day you're taking in this little bit of pesticide, it does accumulate in the body. It doesn't just go away. And when that accumulated load is high enough, your body's interfered with and you have disease. So to make a statement like, well, a little bit doesn't make any difference, is ludicrous. Because you're going to be eating for the rest of your life. And it does make a difference if you choose organic food and don't take in that load of pesticides. Does that make sense to you? But not just that, how do we get the things out of the body that got in? Because if you're not eating real food, you're choosing to put things in yourself. Pesticides and preservatives and colorings and all these things for marketing so that you'll buy that food-like substance. But that stuff stays in you. And then there's things in the environment. There's the stuff that you breathe in. There are chemicals out there in your air fresheners and your personal care products. These all accumulate in the body. And once the accumulation has reached a certain threshold, that's when your symptoms occur. So if you clean the body, the reverse is true as well. I can't tell you how many people, in the thousands, that I've had do simple cleanses. Not some crazy thing where you can't eat for 2 months. A real cleanse is just a rest for the body, and it doesn't have to be a harmful thing or a hard thing to do. We do several different types of cleanses we design here, and all we're doing is allowing the body to do what it naturally does, but it's being interfered with the same way that the interference is causing other symptoms. So how do you clean the body up? Because stuff's going to get in, granted. I know it because I test people all the time, and people that even people that you think would be healthy are full of stuff that shouldn't be in the body, that needs to be eliminated. The way the body eliminates things is to create a transformation of molecules so that they're water soluble and then they can be removed. A lot of people don't even drink enough water to get that done. A cleanse can be quite an eye-opening experience and quite a health-giving experience because you've gotten rid of stuff that was interfering. And if that allows function, which it does, then you've created health and wellness. So we talk about that in the CD, and it's very important. Your body has systems in place to detoxify you, but they're not always able to work as well as they should, and we have to give them some help. And then there's quite a bigger load than we ever used to have in the past, right? Because there are, well, the number quoted is 80,000, but the registry for new chemicals is in the hundreds of thousands. So we've got all these new-to-nature molecules never seen before by the body's trying to deal with, and we have to do something about that. And then stress. There's a whole CD on stress. And again, there'll be continuing education. You have to understand stress, because if you don't, then it is going to hurt you. But stress itself is not harmful. Stress is simply a term coined to talk about all the forces acting on your body. And if something throws you out of balance, we call it a stress, basically. But it can be mental, it can be physical. We talk about that. And I talk about stress like you talk about the Force, if you're a Star Wars fan. Because it is a force. And it can be used for good or bad. Same kind of thing, right? I can either use stress to adapt my body and get a benefit. I can stress my body in a certain way and get bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, on and on and on. If I understand stress, the science of the study of stress is called allostasis. The allostatic load is all the stresses. We talk about that. If you understand these concepts and you know how to apply stress, just like a physical therapist, you can make your body better than it ever was before. That's how we train athletes. That's how I've taken people that were triathletes and helped them to do more. That's how we take people who can't walk around the block to the point where they can run a marathon, because we applied this allostatic load. Now, if you don't understand stress, it's still acting upon you. whether or not you train for a marathon, there are still stresses in life, wouldn't you agree? Well, if you know how to use stress, if you know how to apply it, you can benefit from it instead of being pushed into degeneration by it. It's your choice. It is a choice we make every day. Is the stress going to hurt you or help you? So we want to talk about that. It's a very important concept, and that's in the CDs. And then the last CD is a summary of all that again. Not only like the introduction, but okay, how are we going to go about this? How are we going to create a lifestyle? What do we have to do to design it? What do we have to alter? How do we have to maybe reset our protocols? How do we have to reset our priorities? So again, the conclusion, another hour on how to get this process started. And then if you buy these CDs, then there's going to be bonuses, plenty of bonuses. You're going to have enrolled yourself in a continuing education program on lifestyle design. It'll be available to you online. There will be videos. There will be some documents that you can download. And then of course, likely other products will do some other programs. But we got to get this down first. If we don't design our lifestyle in a way that is congruent with how our body works, then it's given that we're going to have a problem. So you have a choice to make. You can either just kind of go along with blinders on and live your life, and when that disease hits you and you can't stand it anymore, you can go to the doctor, and then you can get some prescriptions, and then you can go to the hospital and end up in a hospice somewhere. I mean, that's the way some people go because they didn't plan on things. And I'm serious about this, and it's not blame or anything, but think about if we backed up a little bit, what could that person have done to not go down that path? And that's why I want people to get these CDs. So go to the site, or if you're seeing this video, you're actually at a place where you could order these. Try them out for 30 days. If they don't have impact on you, if you didn't gain any information, send them back. But if you keep them, you actually enrolled in the continuing education, and we're going to explore how to design lifestyle. I want you to design your lifestyle and be healthy. And then I want you to go and affect everybody around you. I want a healthier world. We can't afford to take care of all the people that are sick and ill at present. We can't even handle the present situation. What are we going to do if everybody gets sick? Obesity is at epidemic proportions, more and more cancer cases. We're not winning that war. People are getting more and more illnesses, chronic illnesses. I'm not talking about getting hit by a truck. We still have to deal with trauma and accidents. But think of all the people that you probably know that have a chronic disease. And maybe they didn't have to have that disease. More and more science is saying that they did not. That they could have done things proactively and stayed away from it. And that's been my experience. When people come in the clinic and we get them healthier, and what we're doing is we're getting them to eat better in their food choices. We're getting them to be more physically active. We're getting them to pay attention to stress and how to use it. And it's amazing what happens. All of the diseases that they'd been diagnosed with, people come in with hundreds of labels of diseases and sometimes 5, 10, 15 different medications. And as they work through getting their body functioning better, the need for medication goes away. We don't tell people to stop their meds. But if you start paying attention to this, suddenly you don't need them anymore. Head meds and body meds, right? You don't need the Prozac if you're not having issues of depression. You don't need the antihypertensive if your blood pressure has regulated itself now because your body's doing what it's supposed to do because you've handled inflammation. This is the way to go about it. So again, purchase the CDs or order the CDs, get them shipped to you. I'll ask for shipping and handling. If you want them and they've been of value to you, pass them around. If you keep them for over 30 days, then you're going to be enrolled in the continuing education, and we'll keep this going. Because my objective is a healthy world, but first of all, I want you to be healthy. This is Dr. Vince Belanzi. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the CDs. We'll talk to you soon.